In this video, we're diving into the psychology behind the concept of everyone is you pushed out. So if you've ever wondered why certain patterns keep showing up in your life time after time, or maybe why you keep finding yourself in very similar situations over and over again, then this video will help you understand how your inner world actually projects out onto your outer reality. Hi, I'm Jeff, and I teach practical and spiritual methods to organize and empower your life. So now let's talk about this concept of everyone is you pushed out and how psychology actually backs this up. Everyone is you pushed out, this concept popularized by Neville Goddard, is not just a spiritual idea. It's not just something esoteric. It's actually something that has very strong support from psychology, rooted in how our subconscious mind operates. So for example, one such theme that we find in psychology is this concept of inner projection. So inner projection is the process where we unconsciously project our beliefs, emotions, and assumptions onto the world around us. Sounds familiar, right? Because this is very similar to this concept of everyone is you pushed out. So for example, imagine you're going into a meeting at work. But deep down, you have some limiting beliefs. You believe that people don't really care to hear your opinions. They don't really care what you think. This could be something that maybe you've been carrying from childhood. So even if this belief is not true, it might cause you in the meeting to stay quiet or to hesitate to share your thoughts. Other people then in that meeting, they of course don't know this, and they might interpret your behavior as you maybe being lazy or being disinterested in the topic, which then further reinforces your belief that your opinion isn't valued. So this is how this concept of inner projection creates these self-fulfilling cycles. The great thing is that once we understand how this mechanism works and we work on our awareness, we can start catching ourselves in the moment that these beliefs come up. And long term, we can not only catch these beliefs, but we can start to replace them with much more empowering, positive mindsets. Now, of course, a lot of this has to do with our subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind is like a program constantly running in the background. It's filled with beliefs formed by past experiences, especially those from childhood when we were very young. And these beliefs act like filters, determining how we interpret situations and then how we behave in response. So here's a very common example. If, for instance, as a child, you often felt criticized, your subconscious mind might hold this belief that I'm never good enough, I'm not good enough. How many of you can relate to that? I certainly can. I'm sure many of you as well. So then what happens though is these get sort of stuck in our psyche, and years later as an adult, we might perceive even just like neutral feedback or constructive criticism as this really strong, intense criticism, even when it's not intended that way. So what happens is essentially we get triggered. So here too, the beauty with understanding all of this is that we can start to catch ourselves and we can know what those limiting beliefs are. And once again, we can reprogram them to have much more positive and productive beliefs about ourselves going forward. Another very interesting theme from psychology, which backs up this concept of everyone is you pushed out, is the idea of confirmation bias and inner projection. So confirmation bias is this psychological principle, and it states that we see essentially what we expect to see. So if you believe people are untrustworthy, and that's what you put out there, you'll unconsciously focus on behaviors that then confirm this. So we selectively focus on what we believe to be true, and we ignore evidence to the contrary. So for example, if this is one of the limiting beliefs that you have, that people just cannot be trusted, then you might notice the one time that someone does not follow through on a promise or commitment, but at the same time completely overlook the fact that maybe that person was incredibly reliable and went above and beyond countless times. So maybe 9 times they were there for you, they were responsible, they were loyal, and then one time they slipped up and they apologized for it. But the thing is, your mind will focus on that one time, the 10% that they slipped up. So this isn't deliberate, it's just that your brain has to filter all this information that it's receiving, and it filters information so that it fits with this existing belief system. And ultimately, this is why changing these internal assumptions is so powerful. Because when you shift your beliefs, your brain begins to notice evidence that then supports your new perspective, and your external reality begins to reflect it. So by replacing these old negative limited mindsets with new positive ones, we can take advantage of these mechanisms which go sort of in the background autonomously in a way, and we can use them to our advantage in a productive, positive way. So now let's get a little bit more practical. How can you actually uncover what your own projections and limiting beliefs are? Well, here are a few simple things you can do to understand yourself better and know where you might be holding yourself back. So first of all, think of a recurring theme or pattern in your life. Maybe it's feeling underappreciated or misunderstood, whatever it is. And then ask yourself, what belief might I be holding on to that creates this experience? And then write, this is like a simple writing exercise. Just write down whatever comes to mind. One thing for me personally, something I've been working on a lot, is I've had issues with like disrespect for a long time. And what do I mean by that? I mean, overall, I definitely do all I can to be respectful and appreciative of those around me and their time and their effort. And, at times, all of us encounter situations where we feel disrespected. But I think for whatever reason, I've sort of been carrying this, old baggage with me that even the slightest of things would maybe upset me, and a lot of times it ends up being something unintentional. A lot of times I realized that in the past when I felt slighted in some way, the person didn't even really mean it. They were maybe just preoccupied with something else, and maybe they said something and they wished that they had said it in a different way. But because I had really thin skin about certain things, I could perceive those things as some slight to me when that wasn't really the case. So that's a really common thing too. I think a lot of people have issues with just feeling like they're not worthy, they're not good enough, they don't receive enough respect. So again, sort of think about a recurring theme and then distill that down into what is the belief that I have about myself that is sort of holding me back. And I think the belief for me in this case was, people are disrespectful, people are rude and disrespectful, something along those lines. So now the next step is simply to replace that belief with a new, positive, empowering one. So again, if the old belief is I'm not respected, then the new belief would be I always receive respect and admiration effortlessly in all of my interactions. And again, it takes some work because you have to catch yourself throughout the day operating with that old mindset. But then every time you do, you slowly start to plant that new idea and that new mindset in your mind. So what you want to do is repeat that new belief every single day. And you also want to visualize scenarios where it's true. Visualize yourself being treated in that way, having interactions in a way that makes that new belief true in your life. And what happens, again, using these mechanisms that the subconscious has, your subconscious mind begins to accept these new beliefs as the new script, and your external world will then change accordingly. So when you understand the psychology behind this concept of everyone is you pushed out, you gain the power back to rewrite your reality. Your beliefs shape your perceptions, and your perceptions then shape your experiences. So these are some simple ways you can begin to catch yourself when you're operating from an old, limited mindset and replace those old, outdated beliefs with new, empowering ones. So if this resonates with you, please try the exercises I shared and let me know about your experience in the comments below. I always love to hear from viewers and learn where you're at on your journey, as well as if there's anything else you'd like me to cover. And in the meantime, please subscribe to be notified as soon as I release more content. And there's a link below, I've pinned it to the top, to join my newsletter. And then you can be made aware of all the latest things that I'm working on, new projects, new content. You'll be the first to know. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.